My name is Monica Denais. I am a therapist and mindset coach based in Dallas, Texas. Today, I wanted to share how to manage anxiety through journaling. Journaling is one of my favorite things to do, and it's also one of the most accessible things to do. Therapy isn't always accessible to a lot of people, especially with the cost of therapy. So, I wanted to give you some practical tools and journal prompts that are going to help you reflect. Anxiety can be overwhelming, but journaling provides a safe space to process your thoughts and emotions. I'm going to share 5 effective journal prompts to help you manage your anxiety. The first journal prompt that I recommend to clients is to identify their triggers. So, what you're going to want to do is you grab a journal and a pen and take a moment to reflect on the situations, on events that tend to trigger your anxiety. Write down any specific triggers that come to mind. One of the questions that I love to give to my clients: when you had an anxiety attack or a panic attack, or you found yourself a little bit more anxious than usual and you started noticing that your thoughts are racing, that asking yourself, why are my thoughts racing right now? What happened before I started having these thoughts? Did I have coffee? Did I have a really uncomfortable experience with someone? Or am I anticipating something in my day? So those are some of the questions that you can ask yourself to start identifying your triggers. When we know our triggers, we're able to find solutions or ways to cope with those specific events. This exercise helps you become aware of what sets off your anxiety and allowing you to develop strategies to cope with them. For example, this could look like when you're journaling, you might discover that crowded places or public speaking triggers your anxiety. For sure, public speaking triggers mine. By identifying these triggers, you can plan ahead and implement calming techniques or seek out support when you encounter these situations. So think about it. In the past, what has triggered your anxiety? What has caused it to feel overwhelming? Now, the second journal prompt that I recommend to manage anxiety is to challenge negative thoughts. So, this is very big in cognitive behavioral therapy, where if you were with a therapist, we would help you understand what we call automatic negative thoughts, ants, and why they're there and how to reframe them. So, this exercise, you can actually do it on your own. If you don't have a therapist, it is totally okay. This is something that I think everybody should learn, a skill to challenge their negative thoughts, because let's be honest, as humans, we're gonna tend to have a lot of negative thoughts more than the positive ones. And there's nothing bad with negative thoughts, but if it does trigger certain behavior that you do not like avoidance behaviors, then it's really good to challenge them and see, okay, so how can I change the way of thinking? But yes, the second prompt is focusing on challenging negative thoughts. When anxiety strikes, our minds can be flooded with negative and self-deprecating thoughts. I want you to take a moment to jot down any negative thoughts that frequently arise when you're anxious. I often tell my clients to use this prompt as a dumping ground so that you have room in your mind. Some people call this kind of like a brain dump, because when you put your thoughts pen to paper, you now have the chance to see them as tangible and can better come up with a solution to challenge them or those thoughts that are not necessarily fact. Our brain tends to give us negative thoughts in order to protect us. If you've ever experienced what I call catastrophizing, which is when we think the worst possible case scenario is going to happen, or even before we make a decision, we think of all the scenarios that are going to happen. And that is actually called a cognitive distortion, a thinking error called catastrophizing. So by challenging our negative thoughts, we're actually decatastrophizing. We're giving ourselves that moment to really focus on, hey, is this actually real? Is this actually fact? Like, will this actually happen? So When you're anxious, your brain wants to protect you. And like I said, these are all thinking errors. So the best thing to do is to challenge their validity of the thoughts. So I want you to ask yourself, is there any evidence supporting these thoughts? Are there any alternative perspectives that might be more accurate than that? Or writing down these alternative thoughts can help you reframe your mindset and reduce anxiety. You can even ask yourself, how will I feel about this in a week? How will I feel about this in a month? How will I feel about this in a year? As you start noticing, after a month, after a year, you might not really care about the situation, but because it's so in the moment, your anxiety is so overwhelming, it feels as if it's already going to happen, right? And we try to predict, these bad outcomes, but we can't really predict what is going to happen, but we can challenge when they're not actually true or accurate, right? Like, again, our brain's trying to protect us, but sometimes it goes on overdrive when we're anxious. So that is the journal prompt number 2, which is challenge your negative thoughts. Now, journal prompt number 3 is one that I always rave about, and that is gratitude and positive reflection. So, your third prompt involves gratitude and positive reflection. You want to take a few minutes each day to write down 3 things you're grateful for or positive experiences you have had. It can be as simple as appreciating the sunrise in the morning or the sunset, or a kind gesture to a friend. If you struggle with making this daily practice, give yourself a gratitude bank. I like to write down everything that I'm grateful for. And on the days where I'm maybe not feeling my best, I will go to my gratitude bank and I will see like what are all of these things that I could write today that I'm actually grateful for, right? So it's like in having an iced coffee, like I'm grateful to have to have my coffee machine, or I'm grateful for my health, or I'm grateful for that I get to have a slow morning. But having a bank with options on what to write is also really helpful because, again, I think sometimes it could be overwhelming to just think of 3 things that you're grateful for, positive experiences. So if you have a bank, it could help you write those down and make the practice a lot easier. Over time, you'll start remembering those little things that tend to always show up, that tend to be things that you're grateful for, and it's going to help you keep up with the practice of things. Cultivating gratitude and focusing on positive aspects of your life can shift your perspective and reduce anxiety. It trains your brain to notice the good things even during challenging times. So I love practicing gratitude. You could just use any notebook. I personally love the 5-minute journal because it already has those journal prompts focusing on gratitude, but you don't necessarily need to buy any new journal. I just encourage you a simple journal that you could get anywhere, or maybe if you're like me and love journals, you have a bunch of journals, notebooks laying around you haven't really used. I encourage you to give them a second life and to start using them by implementing some of these prompts. Prompt number 4 centers around emotional release. Anxiety brings a whirlwind of concerns and emotions, and it's essential to find healthy outlet. So, using your journal as a safe space to express yourself and release those emotions is so important. Honestly, with this prompt, you just write freely without judgment or censorship. You can pour out your fears, your frustrations, or even write letters to people or situations that have caused you stress. I think sometimes, especially when you're in a conflict with someone, maybe you have fear to talk to them about what's going on. Writing them a letter, and you don't have to even send this out, but writing a letter about what you want to say, unfiltered, can be very helpful to just process what is going on. Sometimes, too, there are conflicts where we don't have the ability to actually talk to that person. Maybe that person just doesn't give us the time to, maybe they get defensive, so it's hard to talk to them. I think writing a letter about it to them can be also very therapeutic. So I've recommended that to my clients too, especially when we're working on setting boundaries or entering conflicts. Sometimes it's okay to do it on a piece of paper because it's so much safer. And then we practice role playing and things like that. But this is like the one step that you can do towards being better at managing those types of conflicts. So that is one of the things that you could do with the emotional release prompt. It is really just free writing. The act of writing is very cathartic and helping you process and release pent up emotions. It actually provides a sense of relief. So this is, I feel too that this could be very advanced if for some to just write everything and anything, because I think sometimes we feel still very guarded with our emotions and to share them in paper. So again, this might come with a challenge, but I also think it could be very helpful for people. So my final prompt number 5, is actually all about creating an action plan. Anxiety can leave us feeling helpless, feeling like we don't have control over our lives, but having a plan can empower us. So one of the things that I love is to write down actionable steps you can take to manage your anxiety. This can include self-care practices. This can include seeking professional help. This could include incorporating relaxation techniques in your daily routine. But basically, it is just kind of like your own personal guide for all of these things. One of the things I often hear from clients is that, like, I remember all of my coping skills when I don't need them. When I actually need them, I end up forgetting everything and just spacing out. And so what I tell them is to keep a notebook and write down all the coping skills that we've talked about, because in the event that they are drawing a blank and they need to revisit that and they're feeling anxious, this is kind of your own personal guidebook for your anxiety. So having a notebook where you just write what self-care practices actually work. Like, when I'm sad, I will then do X. When I'm angry, I will then do X. So those are some things that you can add to help you understand, okay, what is actually helpful for me and my own emotions. I think, on the internet, we write, do X, Y, and Z to stop feeling depressed, do X, Y, and Z to stop being anxious. But it is so uniquely individualized. Like, everyone's depression is going to look very different. Everyone's anxiety is going to be different because we are complex humans. So when we create action plans that are catered to us, it really does allow us to manage our anxiety better. So I encourage you to put all of your coping skills, if you're currently seeing a therapist, have them guide you with this too, and see, like, oh, can you send me, things that we've talked about as far as like coping skills I should remember, or books that I want to read. Because this could be, again, just like your little toolbox, your guidebook for anytime you're anxious. So highly, highly recommend that. I think by incorporating a plan, you'll feel more in control and equipped to navigate anxious moments a lot better. Remember that you're not alone in this journey, and seeking support from friends, family, or mental health professionals is a valuable option. But I totally understand if you're in a season where you just want to take action on your own, or that's the most accessible option for you at the moment. So I hope that these journal prompts were very helpful. I would love to know if you are into journaling or you've been wanting to get into it. Maybe I should do kind of just like a beginner's video. If that's something that you're interested, make sure you comment down below. I'm so grateful that you were able to watch till the end, and I'll talk to you soon.